Being one of the most iconic games of all time, it's crazy to think about the fact we actually got a remake of Resident Evil 4. When you look back at the original, it was without a doubt a masterpiece in almost every way possible. It changed the course of the horror genre and led to a new style going forward for the Resident Evil games. For better or for worse, there is no denying any of that. But that leads to the question, was a remake of this iconic classic really needed? It's hard to say, and after beating the game, I still can't give a proper answer to that. But what I can do is tell you that the remake is an absolute incredible experience that stands on its own from the original and makes both versions worth playing regardless of which one you start with. Now with that said, let's dive into the remake so we can go over what makes it so damn good. So the combat in the RE4 Remake is easily the best in the entire series. The control you have over Leon and the way you are able to counter enemies has never felt better. Thanks to being able to counter a wide variety of attacks with your knife like a parry, it opens up the combat in a more dynamic way that allows for you to be more aggressive in ways we haven't seen before. Not to mention, thanks to the addition of being able to crouch, you now have the ability to sneak up on enemies and take them out in one shot, or use crouch to dodge attacks that would normally be unavoidable. These mechanics really do create a fun dance against the endless nightmares that Leon has to battle against. Of course, we also can't ignore the guns and grenades that add to that dynamic combat. Your arsenal is vast and can aid you in a variety of ways depending on the situation you're in, whether that's shooting enemies in the head so you can go for a quick melee to save ammo, or blinding a group of enemies with a flashbang so you can reposition. There isn't any situation that you can't counter. Now obviously you don't start with a wide variety of weapons. You have to acquire them over time in one of two ways, either buying them from the merchant, who we will circle back to in a second, or find them in the world hidden away. Then as for the variety of items in the game that range from herbs for healing to ammo for guns, they can be found everywhere from killing enemies, destroying destructible objects, and more. This made it so I never worried about having enough resources for any situation I found myself in while making my way through the game, since the drop rates and item placement seemed so generous. Also, the merchant helped out greatly with that, thanks to not only selling weapons, crafting materials, and health items, he also sells upgrades for your weapons to make them more powerful, and crafting recipes that give you access to crafting items like mines to attach to your bolts used by the bolt thrower. Now, you buy all of these using money you earn in all the same ways as you find items in the world, but with one additional way. You can not only sell any item or weapon you find in the game to the merchant, there's also treasure hidden all around that will net you the most money, especially when you combine them to make the treasure even more valuable based on what you slot into it. This made exploring worth my time, since the resources I spent finding treasures always seemed to lead to me being in a better position than before. Now that isn't everything the merchant does. He also has a shooting gallery and side quests for you to partake in. The shooting gallery is what you expect. There are various weapons you can use to shoot at targets for a high score. Now based on that score, you get either silver or gold tokens that can be used to roll for different charms that have a variety of effects like increased health recovery. Then you can attach up to 3 of these charms to the case that holds your weapons and items. Now as for the side quests, these range from shooting medallions to fighting stronger versions of enemies, which I really enjoyed doing, and completing these quests earn you a special currency that can also be spent at the merchant for rare items, like different cases that have their own effects as well, just like the charms, like dropping more resources. Okay, now that we are past the basic gameplay stuff, I'm going to talk about the various areas you travel through in the game, then after that, some key moments from the game I liked and disliked. There will be some minor spoilers for the first part, and heavy spoilers for the second part, you have been warned. So starting with the general look of the game, it's a lot darker and has a certain grittiness to it that I absolutely love. It really sets the tone that you are in this remote area against overwhelming odds that look impossible to overcome, with you unsure of what might be lurking in that darkness. But thanks to the lighting in the game being so well done, you have these warm areas that contrast that darkness that really bring a sigh of relief knowing that nothing is probably going to catch you by surprise. Definitely when you see the blue glow of the merchant's flame letting you know a rest area is coming up. Then expanding on this, the changes made to the key 3 areas of the game are so well done. The interconnectivity of the village is perfect. The castle has a good structure that makes backtracking for that missed treasure not a chore. Then last but not least, the island no longer feels like a disjointed mess to me, like in the original. It actually has good structure to it, which was impressive to me because I didn't think there was a good way to make it work without completely gutting it. So well done to the dev team. Now this is where we move into some heavy spoilers though. So there are set encounters I really feel like have been improved on drastically. The first meeting with the Garrador. You fall through the floor and you are immediately in a dark, hellish prison, face to face doing battle with this creature that reacts to sound, with blood splattered everywhere, showcasing how violent this creature is. Compared to the original, this really set the tone for the danger you found yourself in. Next, we have the Regenerator Lab. I really thought this area had the best pacing for the Island Act and had some really cool visual moments that were complemented well with the puzzle and enemy placement. Now jumping over to the various boss fights in the game, El Gigante and the village chief fights are equally as good as the original game and not much has really changed about them. Then the boat fight against Del Lago I think isn't as good as the original. It looks way cooler on a presentation level and pretty much, for the most part, plays exactly the same, but I was missing those quick time events from the original that just added a little bit more spice to the fight. Even though I will say it is fun that you could still shoot the water and have the giant salamander eat you. Now for Salazar, this fight was so much fun. I always found it really boring in the original, so it was nice to see him get a much needed upgrade, and the music is incredible for this fight, some of my favorite in the game actually. Not to mention, I believe it's easily the hardest fight in the game.
Oh shit. Training's not done. Last lesson starts right now.
Jack Krauser. Damn, did they do a good job with this fight. It almost feels like an old action movie with two rivals battling it out for the last 10 minutes of the runtime. Really well executed, and the way they added more depth to Krauser's and Leon's history just added that much more to the fight. Then as for Lord Sadler's final boss fight, it was okay. I don't think it was better than the original, but I also don't think it's worse. I feel like it ends on a lot cooler note, and that might elevate it above the original for me, but overall, I wish they would have done a little more with it, like have us fight Sadler in his human form first before transforming. Also, I didn't like that he also sprayed the same black liquid as Salazar, felt a little too copy and paste for me, but I'm nitpicking.
Bad news? All we've done is buy you some time. The suppressant's effects will wear off all too soon.
Now moving over to the story, this is a much better streamlined experience. I love the parts that Lewis joins in on to help develop the bond between him and Leon and give his character more meaning to the overarching story. I think the dynamic between Leon and Ashley feel more natural in the remake. Salazar looks incredible and has the perfect sadistic creepiness about him, and I can go on about what I like about this game and the characters, but I feel like I've made my point in that regard. It's a really good game. As far as I'm concerned, it's my game of the year hands down so far at this point of the year, but that doesn't mean I didn't have issues with the game.
Ada, what the hell are you doing?
Nothing personal, Leon. Louis and I had an arrangement. Don't worry, I'll take good care of it.
Starting with Ada's voice actor, she didn't sound the greatest at all times. It's like something just feels off. I don't know if it's because they used a different voice actor or what, but the delivery and tone of the lines, I just wasn't feeling them. Then some areas of the game are still not designed well in the remake. Like the room with the two Gyarados. It's like they have this obsession with shoving as many enemies in the place as possible with stronger enemies to boost up the difficulty in an artificial way. So I wasn't a fan of that. Not to mention the first meeting with the Gyarados was so good, why ruin that feeling by bringing more of them back? I would have personally left that as the only encounter with him and replaced the two Gyarados in the room with two special bull enemies that maybe use unique weapons to make them stand out. Which, speaking of bull enemies, they are cool, but not very creative for how rare they are. It would have been sick if after doing so much damage, they threw their weapons down and charged at you like a bull in a blood rage. That would have been really cool. Outside of that, I don't really have much more to complain about. I didn't miss any of the sections that were cut from the game since I likely didn't care for any of them, minus probably being chased by the statue and the laser room from the original, which I have to admit, I really love those moments. And yes, I didn't care for the boss fight against U3, even though it would have been cool to see how they would have reworked it. Which, speaking of reworking, while it popped into my head, the reworked area that you play through as Ashley is 100 times better in the remake compared to the original. The atmosphere is so damn good, and you really feel the emotion from Ashley as she tries to push through with the courage to save Leon. And compared to the original, I am actually looking forward to playing back through this section of the game on multiple playthroughs. I used to dread it, now I'm actually looking forward to it. But overall, I think this remake is a home run, and its performance from a technical standpoint was flawless for me from start to finish on the Series X on performance mode anyways, which is good since that will make going back through on New Game Plus for those bonus unlockables that much more enjoyable. With that said, thanks for watching everyone. I'm going back to Resident Evil 4 Remake now. Y'all have a wonderful day.